welcome back to another episode of the Amateur Hour podcast. I have Isaac with me and Nehan with me today for this episode. My name is Jacob, and we're giving you the Raptors starting five of the decade. We think most of it is pretty conclusive, but we'll run from point guard all the way down to center. We'll go our team of the decade. So let's just get right into it. I don't think anybody can say anything other than Kyle Lowry at point guard. Calderon? What do you think?
TJ Ford?
We could do an all decade worst Raptors.
You absolutely
We definitely could get that done.
It has to be Lowry.
I mean,
anyone says anyone other than Lowry.
a good stat I saw is that over the last decade, Lowry is 7th in win shares by NBA players, behind like LeBron, KD, Kawhi, Harden. The other names aren't with me right now, but Lowry was 7th.
Yeah, the other 6 were like people you would expect on that list.
All-time great NBA players. Like Russ was there, Chris Paul was there. I think that rounds off the 6, and then Kyle Lowry. So that shows you just how good Kyle Lowry has been, how instrumental he's been for the Raptors. I mean, that championship just rounds everything off for him. But we'll move to the shooting guard position. I think again, it's got to be DeMar. Like
Jody Meeks, though. He's giving them a good run.
Does DeMar have a ring?
No.
Does Jody Meeks have a ring?
Yes.
Oh.
There you go.
It's a tough one.
DeMar put up, I mean, I think it's kind of quick. Let's just kind of run down some stats from DeMar DeRozan. Ultimately, I was a big fan of trading DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard, even before the season started. I know it's easy to say that now, but I think I was in the minority at the time for that trade. What did you guys make of that trade when it happened? The Kawhi for DeRozan.
I knew it was a better trade because Kawhi's like Kawhi, but I thought it was like it was just a dick move because like DeRozan was like a franchise player. And
you gotta win games.
And I know, like I'm not mad that it happened, but
even prior to winning the championship, getting Kawhi helped you put yourself into a position to win the championship.
Yeah.
More than having DeMar and going, okay, we may have failed like 4 straight times, but let's run it back again and hope that this time's different. Like you needed to do something drastic.
Yeah.
You had a chance to get a top 5 player in the league for a guy that obviously wanted to be a Raptor, but you had a chance to acquire a top 5 player in the league and a complimentary guard in Danny Green. And there's no way.
Danny Green is super underrated in that trade because Danny Green was a big part of that team. And he was a big part of the Spurs when they went on their that one championship run as well. Like he was undervalued. He was great in that.
He set like
series.
the record, right, for most threes in the finals or something.
Yeah,
I
think it's broken.
Like before Curry broke.
But at the time, you're right. I mean, him and Patty Mills were going off in that series, which is kind of weird to say. But
do you think if we didn't make that trade, would DeMar have been able to take us to the final? Like without LeBron?
Like DeMar plays like DeMar's like the most boring player in the NBA. like it's like no cap. He just literally. I mean, it's kind of a running joke with me about how I hate mid-range shots, but like literally, like that's his game. Like it's ISO heavy, mid-range contested, and I know he put up like 27 points per game one season. He was an All-Star 4 times with Toronto, but like that's the fact of the matter. Like this guy's game doesn't suit the current NBA, and I think where Boston may falter in the playoffs this season is that they rely on the mid-range game too much. I think they're better than DeRozan, like in terms of that, but like there's a reason DeRozan is not a guy you want to trade for, even though he's putting up 21 points per game. There's a reason people aren't looking at him as a big trade asset right now. Yeah. Right?
And he doesn't have like that it factor. Like in the playoffs, like
he's a notorious playoff
struggler. Against DeRozan.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
But nobody was scared. The Raptors were literally the 1 seed, and you would be fine playing against them. Yes, they were the 1 seed and got swept.
Who cares?
And we'll get to Kawhi in a bit here, but I think one last thing about around DeMar and for that trade is you look at the playoffs there and the things that Kawhi did, never mind offensively, but how he shut down Giannis there, even somewhat, right? DeMar or whoever's playing in the Kawhi spot there isn't even coming close to that defensive acumen that Kawhi was being able to place onto Giannis there.
Yeah, but DeRozan played all but 1 year of the last decade. He was great as a regular season player.
Absolutely.
And was a catalyst in the turnaround of the franchise. Really, him and Lowry. You could argue on a day that DeRozan was the most important player in that, right?
Yeah.
But
like the whole We the North movement.
Oh, huge for Toronto. We love DeRozan. It's just, I mean, his game is kind of ugly now, and him ultimately getting traded led to us winning a championship that he wouldn't have given us, unfortunately. But we'll move on to the small forward position. The guy we were just talking about, Kawhi Leonard. I'd rather have Kawhi Leonard for one season than any other small forward that we've had for the entire decade. Like, one season of Kawhi was Turkoglu. On another day I could say Turkoglu. But I'm going to go with Kawhi Leonard in this scenario just because his dominance in the playoffs, where we know we couldn't see Turkoglu really thrive because he never got the opportunity because the team didn't get Turkoglu that far. But no, Kawhi Leonard, I mean, you just look at the playoffs last year. That's all. There's no explanation required for Kawhi Leonard.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I agree. Like, we have one title and there's one player that got us
the discrepancies, I think, are going to come from the front court. This is where there may not be glaringly obvious. Like, the first three were glaringly obvious. The power forward position might be the harder one to pick just because there hasn't been any overly tremendous power forwards on the Raptors in the last decade. Like, there's been, like, who are the power forwards that we've had? Like, Patrick Patterson, Ibaka, Siakam.
Yeah, Siakam. I mean, I really think it comes down to two names, and both of them aren't necessarily, like, designated power forwards, and that's like their main position for both. It would either be Siakam or Serge, right?
But Siakam only came on last year.
Yeah, exactly.
This year, right?
So I feel like given that those are really the only two options, you go for the longevity of the guy who's played more power forward and played well, which would be Ibaka, who has come in and has done his job pretty much every single year that he's been here. What they've asked him to do, and then some. Like down the stretch last year in the finals, and also prior to the finals, Ibaka came in and did a pretty good job when they asked him to come in.
He had some big games. He had some big games in the finals.
Especially in the finals. Yeah, especially in the finals. Like, he was able to find the next level to his game and really help them come on and win there.
And in the final, it was the outside guys who were the players who brought us to the next level in those games. Like, when Fred VanVleet and Ibaka were on, the bench guys really elevated us and gave us those extra little bit of points because it was a close series point-wise. Especially, like, the Game 6 was a 3-point game, right? Mm-hmm. So guys like him putting up 14-ish points per game for the Raptors in his Raptors career, along with like a good amount of rebounds, like 6-7 rebounds a game at least, and has been able to take a lesser role, understanding what the team needs to do. This is the first time in his career that he hasn't been a starter. Like, he started every game in his career for I think it was 8 seasons straight, and then with the Raptors last year, the first time he started coming off the bench since his sophomore year. So I think just because he's been a little bit longer involved in the process, I give it to Ibaka over Siakam, because Siakam is Siakam, the most talented power forward is Siakam. It's just he's only come on this year and the year before. That's where the difference is. Yeah. Finally, the center position. I think there's a bit of debate in terms of talent, but Jonas Valanciunas has been the best center for the Toronto Raptors. He played since 2012, 2013, all the way through to last season when we traded him mid-season. I think if that trade doesn't happen, we don't win an NBA championship, but it was unfortunate to see JV leave because, I mean, we all love JV, but, I mean, he's another one. When the playoffs, when the crunch needed to happen, like in that, there was a series against the Cavs. I think it was a series we got swept. In Game 1, he had 3 layups in the last 5 seconds that he missed. He missed each one, and ultimately we lose Game 1 in overtime. Yeah. So, am I right on that? Is it that series? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know the exact series, but I know multiple times where JV just let us down.
Yeah.
That's tough.
It's tough to talk about these guys, but like it is true. The Raptors were notoriously bad playoff performers, and JV was part of that. It's just JV regular season was so good. Like, and he was there for so long. He was another one. He was a catalyst in the Raptors turnaround. He was, a true big in the NBA, which doesn't see a lot of those anymore, and still put up his numbers. You know, he's averaging 12 points per game throughout his career. So, and his last full season with the Raptors, he put up just almost 13 points per game. That was like the best he ever did. Yeah. But consistent throughout the entire decade. That just puts him on the list. The Raptors haven't been good enough, long enough to have these tremendous players.
Yeah,
but
star players.
Every
other year.
I think that was
the only other option would be Gasol.
But he's played half a season.
Half a season.
He has a ring but that's it.
But I feel like Gasol's contribution to the ring wasn't that like Kawhi's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but he was still very important.
He was still very important.
Like I
like
don't think they win.
We're not winning it. Gasol's not there. I agree.
Exactly. I think if you put in JV instead of Gasol, or even with Kawhi, I don't know if they win that. Like Gasol had some his really good games
and like his just leadership and experience.
Let's we talked about before we started recording the start of the decade, who was the starting five, and I just want to highlight just to show you how far we've come since then. The Toronto Raptors. It was Jose Calderon, DeMar DeRozan, Andrea Bargnani, James Johnson, and Amir Johnson. And now look at where we've been. We had a rough season. We went 22-60 to start the decade, and now NBA champion. I kind of want to go over a few of the worst of the decade who were like what are the, just throw out some names. No, just throw out a couple names, players? Just to see where we are now. Chuck Hayes, Turkoglu, Jamario Moon, Landry Fields, Tyler Hansbrough.
Yeah, there's some tough.
We've come a long way.
Greg Monroe.
Oh my goodness. PJ Tucker once upon a time played for the Toronto Raptors. Yeah, we've had it tough. I mean, PJ Tucker wasn't that bad, but we've had it tough, and we've turned a new chapter. Hopefully, it continues down the line. But we'll end it at that. Thank you for listening to another Amateur Sports podcast. Follow on Twitter and Instagram at AmateurPDC. Follow and subscribe Amateur Sports on YouTube and Spotify. And we post every single day, so keep coming back for another episode tomorrow.